Good evening. I'd like to welcome everybody to the Lee County Board of Commissioners' first February meeting. I don't know where January went, but we're in February now, so it's good to see a full house this evening. At this time, I would like to call on Commissioner Cameron Sharp, and he will introduce the gentleman to offer our invocation and then lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Okay, I'd like to ask Mark.
Shall we bow our head in prayer? Our dear Heavenly Father, we just want to thank you for this gathering. Lord, we thank you, God, that you are here with us and for your Holy Spirit. Lord, I just pray for these commissioners tonight and every one of us here tonight. I pray, Lord, that you bless our heart, and Lord, we will act in a Christ-like way that we can show the world that Jesus Christ reigns and that he lives in our heart. Help us with this meeting tonight. Help all the things that we're going to do and accomplish here. In Christ's name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
The United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Right. Thank you. At this time, are there any additional agenda items?
Madam Chair, I have a couple I'd like to add.
Okay.
One is a response to the, the DOT article, February 1st, regarding the cemetery at Shallowell,
Okay.
the widening of Highway 42 East. The other is to make a formal written request to the Board of Education to discuss the potential impact of charter schools.
Okay. Okay, let's do, under new business, items D and E, if that's okay with you. Oh, no, yeah, D and E. Mhm. Okay, any other additional items? Okay, is there a motion?
Move that we accept the items proposed under new business as part of the agenda.
Okay, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, thank you. And the approval of the consent agenda.
Madam Chair, I make a motion that we approve tonight's consent agenda.
Okay,
Could we add, I know Mr. Reeves, I heard him mention, but could we move the,
The appointment of Reverend Morris to the consent agenda
certainly, if that's okay.
without objection.
Okay,
finally,
okay. All right, so is there a motion to approve the consent agenda as amended?
So moved.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you very much. Okay, we'll move into our public hearing now on the financing agreement for the issuance of limited obligation bonds in the amount not to exceed $35 million. Ms. Mentor, and as Ms. Mentor's coming up, just for clarification purposes, don't need a show of hands or anything, but I have a pretty good list of folks that have signed up for the public comments. So, you know, if you're here to speak for the public hearing rather than the public comments, just when you come up for the public hearing, you can just tell me to cross your name off, if that makes sense. And, you know, we'll move from there. Or we'll hear from you twice. Either way you prefer. Okay, Ms. Minner, thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Good evening. According to Section 160A20G of the North Carolina General Statutes, the county is required to hold a public hearing on a trust agreement or similar financing agreement to be entered into by the county for the issuance of one or more series of limited obligation bonds. The aggregate principal amount will not exceed $35 million. And as I explained to you earlier at your retreat, that amount will be determined by you, and for several reasons, but it will not exceed $35 million. Those funds will be used to pay for the acquiring, constructing, and renovating of an elementary school, renovating and improving buildings in the county courthouse complex, and constructing, expanding, and improving, renovating, equipping existing parks and recreational facilities in the county. So tonight you have ran a public notice that you would be holding a public hearing. After you close that public hearing, there is a resolution that we need you to consider. I'll be glad to answer any questions the board may have about the financing beforehand.
Any questions? I know the bond sales are popular right now, so
Yes.
that's a good thing.
And we do have a representative from our financial advisors here tonight if there are any questions
Okay.
now or afterwards.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Okay, at this time, I'll open the public hearing on financing agreement for the issuance of limited obligation bonds, the amount not to exceed $35 million. Is there anyone to speak in favor? Yes, the clerk is keeping time. Thank you, sir. And if we could limit our remarks to 3 minutes.
Hi, I'm John Kirkman. I live at 3307 English Circle here in Sanford. Chair Dalrymple, County Commissioners, I'm here this evening to speak in support of borrowing the money for the W.B. Wicker Elementary School for renovating and improving the Lee County Courthouse and for renovations and improvements for the Lee County parks and recreational facilities. Our commissioners have been very conscientious in addressing the needs of the citizens of Lee County over the last several years. You were deliberate in deciding the site for our next elementary school, and I think you made an excellent decision. As we enjoy the prosperity and family growth in our county, you have wisely recognized the need to improve our parks and recreational facilities for our citizens. Thank you for recognizing this need, for formulating a plan to address these issues. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kirkman.
Good evening. My name's Andy Bryan. I'm Superintendent for Lee County Schools. I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. To begin, I'd like to thank the commissioners for their support of our project at W.B. Wicker. The project, I think, brings a very important aspect to it to educate the children in our community with a pre-K 5 STEAM school. It will be very unique in so many ways from what it offers within the school and integration of curriculum, but also for the opportunity for students to either attend via attendance zone or via choice opportunities. It's also very important, as I think several people have noted throughout this entire process. It can certainly contribute and has great potential to be a part of the economic development of our city, and also preserves the rich tradition and history of W.B. Wicker. Certainly I speak in support of that tonight, and thank you, as always, for your support of Lee County Schools. Thank you.
Dr. Bryan.
Good evening, Chair Dalrymple and the commissioners. I want to thank you for what you do. My name is Mark Akinosho. I'm the chair of Lee County Board of Education. I just want to say thank you for what you do, and I want to speak in support of the W.B. Wicker. We've been working on this in the last 3 years, and it's been a while. People who don't know what the project was about will come and say something that they don't know. We saw the need in that area, and as a good steward of the taxpayers of this county, we feel like it's a good place for us to build a new school. And we all look at all the commissioners who are here then, and those of us who are on the school board then went and look and see the site, and we are all in agreement that the site is a very good site to build a new school. And one of the things that I've heard in the community is how that site, where we're going to have a new life for W.B. Wicker, is going to revitalize, is going to help the city of Sanford, is going to help everybody that's involved, is going to help the community at large over there. So I want to say thank you for you guys moving forward with this project. We're excited about what that school is going to be for the children of Lee County. I wish that my grandchildren live here in Lee County, that they will be part of that school. Maybe it will have to be zoned for them to go there. I don't know how we're going to zone it yet, but I want to say that thank you very much for what you guys are doing. I know that it's not easy to sit where you are and making decisions to fund the need that we have about these new classrooms. We have a lot of kids all over the county in a building outside of the school, and we feel like they need to be in a place where it can be protected. With all that we are seeing attack on the school and children, it's good that we are going forward with this, and I want to say thank you to every one of us. And it's even good to see my former colleague on the school board, Cameron Sharp, here tonight. He was part of what we were doing then, and I want to say thank you to everyone and to people coming tonight. Thank you.
Good evening, Commissioners and Mr. Crumpton. I am Margaret Murchison, 3400 Evers Avenue in Sanford. I'm here in support of financing for the proposed W.B. Wicker STEAM School and, of course, the other renovations there of the auditorium and the gymnasium. I am a product of W.B. Wicker School, and I feel it would be an asset to our city, county, community, and our children. I don't see any drawbacks, and I feel that to deny this would be an extreme disservice to progress. Thank you very much for your support.
Good evening, Madam Chairman, Board of Commissioners, Mr. Crumpton. This regards the public hearing, of course. My name is Richard Hayes. I live at 2004 Vantage Point in Sanford. I would like to take this opportunity to simply add my enthusiastic support and to endorse what the school board and you have already explored and indicated to be the most logical, most efficient, and most effective pathway to building a much-needed new and revitalized W.B. Wicker Elementary School in the heart of Sanford. Let's get our children out of those mobile units as soon as possible to avoid, as much as possible, crowded and retarding learning and living conditions. Let's get them into permanent, well-equipped, 21st century designed classroom space to help them achieve on an equal footing. By doing this, we will help improve their chances of success on this important elementary rung up the educational ladder. This should help them grow into better and more productive citizens. Thank you very much.
Good evening, Commissioners and everyone here in the building. My name is Brenda Johnson, and I am a resident of Lee County and also an alumni of W. Wicker School. I am here tonight to say that I absolutely approve of the plans to place a well-needed elementary school on the W. Wicker campus, and also to extend my support to the Commissioners in acquiring the amount of money needed to fund this project. I feel that you have been good stewards and have made great decisions to move the county forward thus far, and that you will continue to do so for the betterment of the citizens. So in my closing remarks, I take on the Nike slogan, just do it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Jones.
Good evening. My name is Jay Callandine. I live at 4024 Swan Station Road. Madam Chair, Commissioners, Mr. Crumpton, I appreciate the opportunity to speak, and I speak in favor of the motion to fund the other improvements, of course, but also Wicker School. You know, it was almost 4 years ago when I told a very different Board of Commissioners that we had almost a an elementary school and a half full of children in mobile units. And in the intervening years, unfortunately, that fell on deaf ears, and it has taken this board, working with the Board of Education, to bring things along to where they are now. Today, the arguments against the school have run the gamut, from thinly veiled arguments in the name of security, people standing up to try to shock you about events that happened 30 years ago. Then there was something about traffic that has been thoroughly rebuffed in the recent DOT study, and I hear there's a new one you may hear about tonight. The point is, the argument of the day isn't enough. The problem of overcrowding has only gotten worse, and so we need for you to make the right decision, and we trust that you will. Thank you.
Patrick Kelly, 1525 Fire Tower Road, Vice Chair of the local school board. I know that the focus has been on Wicker, but as I sit here and listen to everybody talk, I'm in total agreement with them. But what people don't realize is that Wicker is connected to our park projects and to our courthouse, because it means that Lee County is growing, and with those come growing pains, and it's just a pain that we're going to have to deal with. And I'm here to speak in agreement for not only Wicker, but the other two, because the safety is just as important as education. So I don't want to beat a dead horse to death, but something we need. And maybe one day, if I'm ever lucky enough to have children, they'll go to Wicker, and I want that.
Thanks, Patrick. Okay.
Good evening, Madam Chairman, Commissioners, Mr. Crumpton, good evening. My name is Fred Webb, and I live at 5507 Swan Station Road here in Sanford, North Carolina. I'm also a businessman who has an office about 2 blocks from here. I stand here and to speak to you on behalf of and in support of all the projects, one, W.B. Wicker School. I have a big background in education, and one of the things that's great about Wicker School and the area that it will be in, and first of all, it will improve the overall situation in that part of town, which is very important and critical to the development of this community, whereby businesses can be attracted. 2, it will also invigorate traffic flow. And as we all know, everybody want to know about traffic flow when it comes to businesses. And so when you talk about the traffic flow of a school, I have seen numerous schools and how much traffic is generated, which in turn flows over into businesses that are also in the neighboring community. And one of the things we in downtown Sanford have been trying to do, as you all know, is we've been trying to increase business. And with the school being as close to downtown as it would be, it will certainly be a big shot in the arm for the economic increased activity that we will see. So far as it relates to the parks are very critical. I'm a big park fan. I work with the Raleigh Parks and Recreation Departments in the summers. Parks are critical for quality of life. Why is quality of life important? It is important because businesses themselves always look to see what a community's quality of life is. 2 things they look at: 1, the schools; 2, the parks. That's what they want to know. I've been involved in recruitment of businesses. I'm still involved with businesses that come to some certain areas, not necessarily to Sanford, but to other parts of the state. And those issues are very critical, and I adhere to and I applaud the board for what it is doing. The court system, that's personal to me. It's long overdue, and thank you all for all of that. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wood. Okay. Anyone else speak in favor? Okay. Anyone speak against? Musical chairs.
Good evening, Commissioners. This is Jim Womack, 1615 Boone Trail Road here in Sanford. I apologize for my froggy voice tonight. First, let me just say I'm very disappointed in several of the items that are on your agenda for proposing tonight with respect to burdening us citizens with more debt, unprecedented new debt, I might add. The site location for the proposed new elementary school, the ill-advised expenditure of hundreds of thousands of dollars on a new spec building. Everything you're doing or proposing to do violates good conservative principles, runs counter to good fiscal policy, and will compel a further decline in the quality of education and economic development in our future. First, let me just address the debt itself. I'll come back later during public comments and address some of the other topics. The $35 million in new debt will no doubt have to be done through limited obligation debt. It's not going to be done through general obligation debt, and for most of the folks that don't understand, that means you're not going to go out for a bond hearing. You're not going to put it to the voters to decide. You're going to decide for the voters. And everybody knows that studies these things that COPs or COPs are one of the most expensive ways to finance debt. That's like taking out a credit card. And what you end up doing when you do limited obligation debt like that is you're burdening these citizens with more interest on the debt than they would normally have to pay if they did general obligation debt or bonds. You know, if you really wanted to do this right, put it to the vote of the citizens. You know, put that $35 million out there in front of the citizens. They just voted on all those community college bonds ahead of the elementary school, so put the elementary school on the out there for vote and see what the citizens say. When you tell them, when you disclose to them how much more taxes they're going to have to pay over time, they might have a different opinion. Right now, our tax rate is 79.5 cents on the 100, which is the highest county tax rate anywhere around. On top of that, you get, for those of us that live in the city, there's 60 cents for the city tax. That is the highest tax rate of any of the surrounding counties. It's even higher than anywhere in Wake County. And you know, they can afford, they got a higher standard of living up there. They can afford to pay higher taxes. Our tax rate is the highest, unprecedented high rate that I've seen in decades in this area. And I don't understand why we're going to sustain that. And that's even before we take on $35 million in new debt. You're virtually guaranteeing that there's no way we're going to cut our taxes in Lee County in the foreseeable future. The only possible way to do that is through a reval. And that means you're going to have to make everybody's property rates go up, or everybody's property values go up, so you can hit them with a lower rate. It's, you know, 6 of one, half dozen the other. We're paying too much in taxes. Now, you know, I got about 30 seconds left, so let me just say, when conservatives were on this board back in 2013 and 14, we cut the county's debt by 25%. We reduced our taxes by 6 cents, or actually 3 cents at the time. And then we also had a very attractive landscape for future economic development. What we have right now is a guarantee that we're going to drive more companies away, that we're going to drive more business away from here, and more families are going to choose to go elsewhere. I'll come back during the next session. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Womack. Anyone else to speak against? Okay, at this time I'll close the public hearing. All right. As you'll see in your agenda, there is a resolution to consider.
Yes, ma'am. If you go to page 17 of your agenda package, there is a resolution there. It's a resolution making certain findings and determinations regarding the proposed financing of various capital projects by the County of Lee, North Carolina, and requesting the Local Government Commission to approve the financing arrangement. I will be glad to try to explain some of these terms if you would like, or go over them if you would like. Otherwise, any questions?
The main point of the resolution is to authorize staff to make application to the LGC. So given the timeline, we need to act on that tonight.
The resolution also explains that you will be issuing a deed of trust on the property. The main property, which is the W.B. Wicker School site, will be the property we will be using as collateral in this case.
Any questions? I will say, we discussed this at length at our board retreat, and you know, to those in the audience and those watching elsewhere, our finance director and our manager definitely did their due diligence, and our representative back there. It is a good time to do projects of this size and this scope with the interest rates that are available. I understand the criticism of expenditure, but we need schools. The legislature has said that we need smaller classes, which means we need more rooms, and we're already strapped for space. So we are addressing the needs and answering the dictate of the state. So is there a motion?
So moved that we adopt the financing as proposed by staff in support of the W.B. Wicker pre-K through 5 elementary school funding as well as the parks funding and the courthouse.
Okay. Any more questions or discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I will say that we did have another phone conversation with LGC last week, and they do know we are coming to them with this project and have received preliminary approval from them to move ahead with it.
Very good. Thank you.
you.
Thank you so much for your hard work.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll move into public comments. Mr. Kirkman, no, that's okay. Go ahead, Linda. Go ahead. Come on up. Just your name and address, and we'll limit it to 3 minutes.
Hi. Good evening to the Lee County Commissioners and to Mr. Crumpton. I am Linda Smith, a resident of Lee County. I live at 1501 Windmill Drive. I've been in Lee County for 32 years. I'm an educator, a former high school teacher of biology, chemistry, and physics, an elementary school principal, a teacher at Lee Christian School, and the human resource director of the Lee County Schools. I served as an adjunct biology professor at CCCC for 9 years. I am a former Lee County School Board member serving for 8.5 years. I was a board member when we implemented the STEM curriculum that was developed in conjunction with Paxton Patterson. And as a trained educator of science, you can't imagine the excitement I felt when STEM was implemented in our middle schools. I'm no longer a board member. I'm no longer employed in the public school system. But my excitement is not lessened when I learn about innovative programs that can be brought into the Lee County schools. A motivational word for me is intentional. When I learned about the W.B. Wicker campus being considered as a STEAM school, that excitement for another innovative program was ignited. I said to myself, I know that the Lee County Board of Education and the Lee County Commissioners will be intentional in their effort to bring this innovative learning model to fruition. In this climate of economic uncertainty, I believe the Lee County school system continues to be transformative in the 21st century through innovative curricular programs. To ensure a prosperous future for our students, innovative programs must be tightly coupled with science, technology, engineering, and math. However, by adding to the STEM equation the arts to equal STEAM, our students will become engaged in integrated learning that will help them explore the world around them through an intentional integration of core content. The added arts will help students to think deeply, develop creative solutions, and aspire to a greater future. How best can this be done? I appeal to the Lee County Commissioners to borrow the funds needed to renovate the W.B. Wicker site to become an A+ STEAM school. Thank you.
Thanks, Dr. Smith. Okay, Mr. Kirkman, you're good? Okay, all right. And Ms. Murchison? Okay.
I'm good.
Okay, all right. Mr. Hayes? Good, okay. Mr. Kelly?
All I gotta say is thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Okay, Mr. Womack?
Thank you, Jim Womack, 1615 Boone Trail Road here in Sanford. Continuing on with my conversation earlier, this is for the Wicker project specifically. I think there are many of us in the community who would love to see the Wicker School preserved in some future, for some future purpose, whether it's business or whether it's a museum-like facility or whatever. But you already had control over a facility in Lee County, the Jonesboro site, which for about $10 million less, you could have built an elementary school on that. Now, I understand that there may be a little more money needed because of that particular site, that particular facility, in renovating that thing, but I think that prudent decision makers that are conservative in mind would would first look to where you can get the same quality of education for a lot less money, and then that way you'd have more money in reserve to do other things that you need to do in the community. Spending $28 million or more to put this facility together, and it's escalated, by the way, over the years. I guess just a few years back in the capital plan, it looked like it was going to be $15 million. Now it's $28 million, and who knows where it's going to end up. I'm told today, haven't verified it, but that the contractor that's responsible for the facility is under federal investigation. And if that's the case, then you ought to take a pause before you go forward. If the contractor or the architect is under federal investigation for cost overruns, maybe that should be a signal for us in Lee County that we need to take pause and make sure that he's clear before we move forward with taking on new debt. Now, the spec building, I have a real issue with that. Committee of 100 can tell you firsthand what it's like when you build a spec building betting on the come, and then they end up having to tear the building down later on, and now they got a waste management company sitting on that facility or that site, as far as I know. You know, that's a waste of hundreds of thousands of dollars because we're betting on the come that some company's going to want that particular size of ceilings and facility. I would say use that money so it benefits all businesses. Use that money so it benefits everyone in the community. And, you know, do that in general infrastructure projects. Not one project that will benefit one company, but a rail spur or improved roads somewhere or water line extensions, which is, I think, part of what you're doing tonight. Do those things because that makes good fiscal policy and good sense. By spending money on one building, betting on one company to come there, you're benefiting only one company. And I will tell you then, technically, that's in violation of the Moretti case, the Supreme Court case from 1984. If you check the details, the Moretti case said that you have to do things that benefit generally the whole public. When you do a project like this for a spec building, you're only benefiting one potential company. And I would suggest that that's kind of a project you really take a hard look at. Thank you very much for your time tonight.
Thank you. Jay Calendine?
Commissioners, it is deeply ironic to me that you are being asked to remember wistfully at the time when government here was run with a blind view to what the public wanted. The public was crying for another school. And the school board not only was told by that board of commissioners, no, there will be no more new schools. In 2014, they passed a resolution basically just criticizing them all personally. And it is even more ironic that you're being asked to wistfully, or being warned that the situation you're looking at is having to, if you cut taxes, you'll have to balance that out with a revaluation. I mean, where have we heard that before? So I applaud the work of this board to move the county forward and encourage you not to look back wistfully, but look forward, hopefully. Thank you.
And Ms. Johnson? You're good? Okay, all right. Thank you, everybody, for coming out and sharing your public comments. We appreciate that. It helps us very much. Okay, we'll move into old business. And the first item is discussion regarding upcoming proposals to the deer hunting season zones. And Commissioner Odom, that's your, and page 24 on your agenda.
I've been contacted several times on the deer hunting gun season in Lee County. Our gun season is not as long as our neighboring counties, and I was asked to see if we could get it to at least match the gun season in the adjoining counties. And I think we have before us tonight a resolution. And what I'd like to do is for us to direct our clerk to send copies of this resolution to the Director of the North Carolina Wildlife Resource Commission, Senator Ronald Laban, Representative Robert Reeves, II, and John Sauls, and to the Sanford City Council, Town Council of Broadway, to see if we can get this gun season, or at least our district changed to the Eastern District, which has the longest gun season.
I think you're just trying to ask to be more congruent with the counties around us, right? Because everybody else is longer as well. Right?
Yes. Any questions or discussion on this? Okay. motion?
So moved, Madam Chair.
Okay, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, we'll try it again. We'll try it. We're just gonna, maybe our tenacity will pay off. Okay, our next item of business, item B, is the consideration of lease space in the spec building, and Mr. Crumpton's gonna take this one this evening.
Yes, Ms. Parrish could not be with us tonight, so I get to make her presentation for her tonight. Seemed to be a common theme today, starting at the Chamber of Commerce, where I stepped in for someone. So, just to make a quick comment, the financing arrangement that we're doing in this was recommended by the School of Government, Tyler Mulligan, who is an expert on economic development practices. So that is why this particular type of arrangement was recommended, was due to that research that we did. This is actually a lease. The lease of this facility would start when the building was completed. So none of the holding costs that the Samet Properties LLC will be responsible for during construction will be passed on to the county. This is a, the lease starts for 2 years at that point. CC Enterprise Park LLC is actually who we lease it from, in their partnership with Samet Properties LLC. So I'll be happy to answer any questions. If the lease were to run for the entire 24 months, the county would be have a budget impact of up to $325,000, and the board held its public hearing on this economic development matter at the January 16th meeting.
Okay.
And Bob Joyce here is representing Saga tonight to answer any questions you might have of him as well.
Any questions for the manager or for Mr. Joyce?
I understand that the city has already voted in favor of this as well.
Yes.
Motion support.
No, just in a motion to approve.
Okay. Madam Chair, I move that we participate in the leasing of a building owned by Samsat Properties LLC, which will be located in Central Carolina Enterprise Park.
Okay. So there's a motion to enter into the MOU for the leasing of the spec building. Any more questions or discussion? All those in favor?
I've got a couple of questions.
Sure.
Item number 5, page 54.
Okay.
My recollection is that we talked about this 24 months and maybe an explanation of how all this is going to work. If you look at the item number 5, it talks about the 24 months after completing the building. I remember asking if we would have the option for extending another 12 months. And it goes on in the same paragraph to talk about rent prepaid shall be reimbursed to the city and county. So I'd like to get a better understanding of where we are in terms of those two items, because I certainly don't find the extension in here.
The board will actually get the vote on the actual lease that comes back. So there were still some things that needed to be worked out in the lease, and that was one of them. And then the prepayment of rent or lease would be, let's say we prepaid for the month of June, and the building was paid on June 1st, or bought on June 1st or June 15th. We would get a prorated share of our rent back based on when the closing occurred.
But we get nothing back for any of the prior months if they sell the building, is what I'm trying to say.
That is correct.
But we're able to utilize the building, for showing it, different activities.
No, I understand the uses. I'm always interested in refunds.
I understand, believe me. Yes, sir.
Well, there were two reasons that at one time we talked about that. The first reason it was taken out was that it went from a grant to a lease. So repayment of lease was determined by the attorneys that couldn't occur. And then the second reason is they're taking the holding cost for that first 12 months and being responsible for that. So, obviously they're going to want to get that back in the final price of the building. So, in adding our lease amounts to the price of the building may, make it prohibitive for being purchased. So
That's a reasonable explanation, but, so the option to extend another 12 months is what's going to be discussed after we do this tonight.
yes, sir. We have actually the whole lease would actually have to come back to us because this is just an MOU for them to take and go get the financing and to complete their partnerships.
All right.
We have one more step before it's finalized.
My motion effect was to approve the MOU.
Right, okay, okay.
This is not the first time that the county has undertook spec building or participation in it, is it?
Well, this one's a little unique.
Yeah, I
The
realize
first,
that, but I mean, just from a public standpoint, it's.
Yeah, don't remind us.
it was. I think we learned a lot of lessons on that first one that we are trying to avoid in this one. Number one is that we have the private sector involved, and of course we're involved as well. So they have skin in the game as well as we do.
No, I understand that. That's.
And yes, it did get
Point
knocked out.
state.
Yes, Waste Industries has a transfer station there. So.
Okay. All right. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed?
No.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, consider bids for the Colon Road Water Project, page 61. Mr. Crumpton?
Yes, Madam Chair, I did not see Ms. Thrash out there, so I saw Bob, but obviously they both were representing Saugus, so I didn't want to slight Ms. Thrash now that I see her back there. We did receive bids on Friday for the Colon Road Water Project. If you remember from the agenda, we were supposed to receive bids back on January 24th, but only one firm showed. So per board policy, we rebid, and we received two bids. And the lowest responsible bidder is Sandhills Contractors. They're located here in Sanford for a price of $290,252. You have a letter attached from Mike Epke. And by the way, I've misspelled his name twice. It's spelled A-P-K-E, and I apologize for that. With McGill & Associates, he has evaluated the bids, and he is recommending that we award the contract to Sandhills. And Sandhills is someone who has done quite a bit of work here in Lee County.
So moved.
Okay, there's a motion for approval. Is there any questions or discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you very much. All right, new business. Consideration of award to bid to Legion Asphalt for the Lee County Government Center parking lot. Mr. Spivey. Good evening.
Good afternoon, y'all. And, hope everybody's doing well tonight, and Mr. Crumpton as well. Come tonight, and I've got Jeremy Thomas here to he has contacted the references for this company, recommending that we move forward with this Legion Asphalt. And Jeremy had checked out the references, and they came back good. And I've asked him to come tonight for any questions that y'all may have. The original budget was like $87,000. Came in a low bid at $56,806. And we're asking for a 20-cent contingency of $11,362. The total request will be $68,168.30. And the reason is the unknowns, uncertainty of the soil content. Plus, we've got to issue, and it's the lower parking lot across from Rogers here. And you can see we got some work coming up there. So once we get into it, we'd like to be able to move forward and not stop the project. Now, this project's going to be like a 9-day down, and I'm talking about there will be 5 working days and there'll be 2 weekends that we will not be able to use that parking lot. So that's going to be another issue that we will need to work out, with the people here. And the reason that we've tried to work this time frame is I'm hoping that we can get this approved possibly tonight, and we can, and when asphalt plant start up, we can move forward with this project.
Okay.
But, and I've got Jeremy, if there was any questions that you'd like to ask him or me, either one, be glad to.
Yeah, we're gonna have a mess for a week,
Um,
not having access to the lower parking lot, so.
Let me ask you a question.
No, go ahead, I'll say mine.
I like the price you got, I think, and I'm happy with that, but I'm just asking about the 20% contingency fund. Normally, that's the 10% item, and I understand you may have some unforeseens, but any change orders had to come to Mr. Crumpton to start with. So, you know, if we set it at 10% and you get an exorbitant change order,
Well,
then
the
it
reason,
probably
and Jeremy and I had talked about it, the only reason I was concerned, Mr. Odom, and you'd looked at me prior to, you know, when I was doing the budget stuff, is that one place with the water, and once we get into it, because, you know, once the milling machine comes in and removes it, we're gonna be in a situation where we'd have to call a special meeting, whatever, so that, you know, we thought if we went with the extra 10%, it might allow us that to be able to put the extra drainage to take it from there down to the lower end of the parking lot. That was my
Yeah, we
thought.
just asked for additional under my authority so that, you know, I could come out here and take a look and decide if we needed to keep it going. Just from the standpoint, once they get started, we don't want to have to stop and do that. So we're just asking for a little extra on this one because of that water seepage back there.
That's fine. I'm just wondering, I know 10% is what we normally, you're going to require a performance bond.
Yes. And two,
I'm sorry? A performance bond.
Thank you.
but that was the reason, and if it hadn't been a situation too, Mr. Odom, where the parking was so critical, it wouldn't been, if it had been somewhere we had plenty of parking, we wouldn't have done that. Because normally, you're correct, that's what we do. And I appreciate, you know, your efforts. You came out and looked at it with me prior to last year this time. And Jeremy has worked with me on it, and Santiago has been working with me since he's been on board as well, too. And I appreciate both of them's help with this matter. And y'all support, too.
Jeremy, it looks like this company's handled some big projects before. What did you hear from the references?
That is correct. They have handled some big projects in the past, and I was able to talk with 3 of the references. Mr. Scotty Summerlin, he's the town manager of Warsaw. Mr. Kendall Williams, he's with Smithfield Foods, and Mr. Arnold Rebels with Brunswick Nuclear Facility. And they all said that they performed very well on those projects. So,
Projects probably bigger than what?
They were somewhat equal.
Somewhat equal,
yeah,
okay.
yeah, they were bigger than what we have here.
I noticed one of them was 275,000 or something like that. One of the previous projects, yeah. It's a pretty good sized project.
That's correct.
Okay.
Move to approve the bid, the amount of $56,000 and 20% contingency fund, $11,000 plus.
Okay. Hold on one second.
Yes.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay. Have we thought about maybe talking to the Lutheran Church about, because I know a lot of our staff parks.
I've thought about it, but I haven't done anything yet.
Okay, I mean, I was just.
But it's a good thought. And we were trying to work around, because this is our best season, because, you know, usually the months when the tax are being collected, you know, the first part of January. And also the needs that comes through DSS is somewhat lesser, you know, and I was hoping that we might. But no, that is a good thought, and that will be something I'll be glad to check in on.
And the other thing, well, and we've got the upper lot. I don't know how many spaces. I missed that in the. If it was if the spaces were included, I missed it, and I apologize if I did.
I don't believe no, we didn't.
Like parking spaces down there. Do you remember?
It's going to be the same number of spaces.
No, but I mean,
How many are down there?
Yeah, I mean, I just wonder if the upper lot would cover most of it, because it's empty a lot during the day.
That's a good point.
We can ask also the property owners of the property next door to mental health if we can use that.
Yeah.
And I'm sure Mr. Brewer would let us use his parking lot as long as we ate breakfast, lunch, and
Probably, that's a good point. What we should do, and I didn't know, Jeremy, I know I hadn't counted this count what we've got. compare with what we may be able to do at mental health and over there and kind of take and observe what we kind of got.
That way they won't have to cross the road at least.
Yes, that was on concern I had across, but I did, you know, that was a good suggestion because we've got to do something with it.
Yeah, that's gonna be a rough week, but we'll
Yeah.
power
What
through.
is, yeah, what the plans are is to start, of course, you know, like any project we always have weather to contend with.
Right.
So if we start on Friday, that would give us Saturday and Sunday, and then 5 days, and Saturday and Sunday again. If the weather cooperates, and of course, Mr. Odom tell you, when we done the convenience center, it incorporates.
No, it hasn't been cooperating with us much
No,
lately.
so- but we
for
can't control
schools or
that.
anything else. That's right. That's
Can't control
exactly
that.
right. Okay, all right. We'll
Okay.
do what we can to help.
All right, thank y'all so
Okay.
much for
Thank
support.
you, thank you. Thanks, Jeremy. Thanks, thank y'all for coming tonight. Okay, moving on to, let's see, we had moved C to the consent agenda. So our next item, excuse me? Oh, right, I'm sorry. B, the tax lien advertisement for delinquent 2017 real property taxes. And I didn't mean to
Thanks,
skip over you there.
That's all right, that would have been fine. Michelle couldn't be here tonight, so she asked me to stand in for her. Per the North Carolina General Statute 105-369, the tax collector is required to provide a report of unpaid taxes to the board the first Monday of February. This report was processed on January 25th and made payable through the clerk's office and through the commissioner's website. At the time that the report was run, the unpaid real estate taxes owed were $2,570,631.91. It was run again this afternoon just to give you an idea, an updated figure. The figure this afternoon was $2,305,606.56. So we've collected just over $265,000. What we need tonight in order to send delinquent notices and to advertise in the newspaper in March is an order from the board to advertise our tax lien.
Okay. All right. Is there a motion? Okay. Any questions? All right. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you very much for standing in. Appreciate it. Good to see you. All right. Now, item D, the Shallowell article. Mr. Reeves?
Madam Clerk, make sure that the record shows I am not opposed to the Broadway project. I'm not opposed. I'm merely responding to this article, and if you don't have it, it was in your Thursday, February 1st, Sanford Herald, page 85. In the last paragraph, I suppose this is the DOT person who makes the statement that we're still planning to have to relocate graves. We've not been told by local officials to stop doing it. That to me leaves the door open for comment from local government. I have no opposition but for that 1 mile, that first mile down to Shallowell Church. I feel that I've not been given an explanation of why that's so critical, because if you go 1.5 miles, you're at the intersection stoplight for the bypass. Now, I understand, having worked down at that end of many years ago, how the traffic can get. But a little slow traffic is not the worst thing in the world. We're talking about an expansion that would take some residential properties, I'm sure. But more than anything, the graves. I would ask the board to consider and ask the manager to pursue the idea that we take a look at what that would cost, that 1 mile, and perhaps consider moving those funds or requesting that those funds be used for the Kelly Drive, which would take you right out to the bypass. It seems to me, and as I said earlier, I haven't been given a clear explanation of how and why that 4-lane for that 1 mile is going to make that much of a difference. Because if you're coming from the west headed east on Main Street in Jonesboro, by the time you get to McDonald, you're coming off of a single-lane highway. If you 4-lane all the way to the other side of Broadway, if you go out to 421, you're back to a single-lane highway. I'm not arguing about the expansion beyond Shallowwell Church. It just bothers me that we're talking about moving as many grave sites as they've claimed, up to 200 for 1 mile. When in fact, those funds could be better served over on Kelly Drive, where we've invested $23 million.
I don't know the traffic patterns myself. I can only imagine it has something to do with the companies that are there and the amount of traffic that's on there and getting them to the bypass as easy as possible. And I don't know their patterns. I can just assume that there are some big companies along there that have, you know, Davenport's close by, Arden's close by. I'm sorry, Cody, that they may have wanted an easier passage to and fro because of their trucks. I don't know if that is the case.
I understand.
I'm just throwing that out there for thought.
I gave that full consideration, but it's just like the trucks that come up Horner from the Walmart end, headed north. Many of them can cut off and go 421, hit the bypass, and get right down to Cody.
Yeah, same way you can leave in Cody, you got the same.
That's correct.
And besides that.
But the thing
We
is,
have
you
a
still
bypass now.
ask for DOT to give you a reason, so that's still out, you know, it's
I
reason, right?
understand.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, 1 mile to me doesn't seem to cure the real problem. But I would think Kelly Drive opening that goes right out to the bypass is equally beneficial in the long run.
It's a good alternative.
That was it. The gentleman that made the comment seemed to suggest that we were not paying attention and not getting involved, and I want to be on record as getting involved. So I'd like to have a better explanation.
Well, I know for 4 years, at least, we've been talking with DOT and trying to get them to latch on to the Kelly Drive idea. And in the meetings that we've had with myself and the 2 mayors and DOT, you know, in our ranking, we listed Kelly Drive as number 1. It just, with this newfangled scoring mess that they have.
You said it right.
Okay, thank you. You know, it doesn't score well. And we have been in meetings. I know the manager and I went to one, and that's been, what, John, over a year ago at the community college, and met with 2 representatives from DOT and tried to make our case. And it's like trying to move a mountain, and they're just unwilling. As far as the 1 mile, well, I mean, as I told you before, you know, in talking with church members there at Shallowwell and with DOT, you know, when this first started, I guess, getting attention about 3 years ago, when they started doing some initial markings, you know, and activity there. You know, all of a sudden, you know, a lot of people in that community realized that something that had been on the books, on the step, and you know, planning for 20 or 30 years was coming to fruition. And initially, in talking with some of the folks at the church that are responsible for the cemetery, they thought it would maybe only be 120 or 140 graves. And now, you know, and I don't pretend to understand, but they have technology now where they can see beneath the surface, and they found that there are actually unmarked graves in between the marked graves. That's what increased the amount of graves to be removed. And of course, it's a painstaking process. It's been an education for me as far as how they're going to go about doing that, and they're trying to locate family members, and the churches, you know, helping out a whole lot. They understand that it's probably more than likely it's going to happen, but I know one of the early on when we were having conversations, one of the gentlemen from DOT, when the church was making very much some of the same arguments that you are, was to take it from 4 lanes and then back to just 2 lanes and then back to 4 lanes would be a safety issue in and of itself, and cause a lot of people to try to, you know, get over. Yeah. So, but I don't see anything wrong with trying one more time to try to get their attention.
You know Mr. Bill Lawson. Mr. Bill Lawson probably knows as much about building highways as anyone in the area. He was head of the highway department in Raleigh for several years. He lives right here in Lee County.
Right.
And he'd be a good guy if we could get him to maybe sit down and have a discussion with some of us about this issue and see if, I know he would have some thoughts on what's happening, because that's down in his area. He lives down in that area.
Well, the county staff has been very diligent in keeping up with it and being on top of it. And Don, I think, has done several maps. So, but here's one consideration that I think I'll just say that I fell short on. When we were looking at this TARPO proposal several years ago, the bond program for CCCC was not a subject matter. And so even though we talked about Kelly Drive, we didn't stress the significance that Kelly Drive would make to the community college and to the community. And so I understand why DOT might have kept driving forward, plowing forward.
Well, I know the last 3 years we have really been jumping up and down about it, you know, once the bond passed. I think that was part of it too, was we couldn't really make an argument to move Kelly Drive until the bonds were passed. And we knew that the classrooms would be across the street once they passed, and we really started trying to advocate for it.
That's all the more reason to argue the 1 mile.
Absolutely.
That's
Okay.
all the more reason.
Okay. All right. Everybody clear on the motion? Okay. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay. And sure. And the second thing, Commissioner Reeves, the request, formal request.
I thought
of the
that we
schools.
would have some discussion at retreat to talk about charter schools. And I understand that there was some mix-up, and so it didn't take place. But I'm looking at a fact sheet, and by no means am I an authority, but I will tell you it's quite interesting. And I don't know how many of the public really understand the impact that they could possibly have. But you look at this fact sheet, and what I want to know is the differences in the public school requirement and the charter school. This thing lists here, unlike traditional public schools, charter schools are not governed by elected officials. For-profit companies may manage them, and there is no requirement that board members reside in North Carolina, have no curriculum requirement, can modify their academic calendar, have no restriction on class size, can expand by 1 grade level beyond what is currently offered without approval from the North Carolina State Board of Education. There are a number of different things. There are probably 5 or 6 here, more. We really ought to get ourselves educated on this subject. I mean, I'm not opposed to charter schools. I do think they have an extreme advantage. I'm not opposed, but certainly if we have people transitioning from public school to the charter school and more people coming in, at some point in time, it's going to get out of sync in terms of the funding.
Well, I know, and you raised a great point. I was in a meeting in Raleigh a couple of weeks ago, and one of the people at the meeting, who's a big advocate for charter schools, made the comment that in his county they were building an elementary school for so many dollars a square foot. But right across the county line, they were building a charter school for about $20 less a square foot. And he made that argument that they were cheaper. Well, I asked him if they had to follow the same rules for school construction that the states, our public schools did.
Right.
And the answer was no.
Okay.
And I said, so that's not to me, that's not a valid argument to say that they're better because they're cheaper to construct. Not that they're not good schools if they're managed properly and done well, but I didn't think it was very fair to the public school system to say that they were more expensive when they have to follow much stricter rules. Number of bathrooms, so many feet away from classrooms and exits, and just, I'm sure Mr. Kelly and Commissioner Sharp can attest to the fact that, it's a book full of specs that they have to follow. Okay. Yeah, if you wouldn't mind sharing that with the rest of the board somehow, how we can see that.
I want the school board to provide it.
Okay. Okay.
That's where I want it to come from.
Okay.
And I'm not being coy about it. I'm simply saying that's where I was supposed to receive this from. So if I got mine there, let's make a formal request and get that and someone to discuss this matter with us.
Okay.
I appreciate you saying what you said, Commissioner, because you're right. Some of us need to educate ourselves on what these charter schools are all about. I know very little about them, and that's because my daughter's been out of school 20-some years, but I plan to learn a little more about them, I can tell you that.
And they're expanding. I mean, they're
Yes, they are.
really catching fire. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Oh, thank you. Okay, manager's report. The deputy.
Yeah. So, good evening. Before you have the financial report for the month of December. As you can see, we are still slightly behind where we were at the same time last year for property tax collections. We're hoping January caught us up, and it will look even better once I can give you the January report. As far as expenditures go, we still have a few departments that are running over, finances exceeding due to the cost of the county's annual audit. Strategic Services, IT, General Services, and Sheriff are exceeding the target due to annual maintenance contracts, equipment purchases, and insurance premiums. If you have any questions on that, I'll be glad to answer them. If not, I'll move on into the sales tax reports. Okay, if you look at page 90, starting on page 90, you'll see the sales tax reports. This is for collections through the month of October 2017. We continue to do well. We are on target with our percentages and doing well. We're still seeing about a little bit over 6% growth in our sales tax. So, any questions?
Great job.
Thank you.
Good news. Okay. Commissioner comments? Commissioner Connect?
Just prayers go out to family members for recent incidences locally. Just gonna keep everybody in their prayers. That's all I have. Thank you.
I want to go back to what Commissioner Reeves was talking about earlier, the shallow well thing, just real quick. I've had many calls, texts, running into people, they're real upset about this. quality grave sites and things such as that. We really do need to get on that best we can.
I don't have a whole lot. Only thing I will do is, I will tell you this, I got cornered today by a couple of people on the trash, John. And I just wonder if somehow we get, they were very upset about between the D&D store and that service center.
Yes,
They
sir.
said that somebody's thrown out a bunch of stuff up through there. Either a truck went through, but they were asking me if there's any way I could get something done about cleaning some of it up. I said I'd check into it and see. So if you don't mind looking into that for me, I appreciate it.
Mr. Spivey and I will get into it tomorrow.
We process for hiring people for that, and the honest thing with life is we gotta get our signage and some things for safety wise. Joe's been working with, HR. We do have some people, I know we've got one guy hiring, so we're in the process, but we do, the honest thing, we gotta get signage, let people know that we're in this process with Roy. And what Joe's done, he's got areas like that, and he's gonna start off with troubled areas first, and then move forward, but, and if you do have one, any of the commissioners, if you'll make us aware.
I tell you, I appreciate it because I'm getting the name of being the trash man.
Yeah, well, and
Everybody
I
contacts
agree,
me.
it's a constant thing, because I know I pick it up in front of my house all the time, so we are working on that, so thank y'all for your patience.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
So I fully support the Colon Road Water Project, but I want everybody to know that we still have other areas in the county that need water, and I promise you I'll have a call tonight or tomorrow and every week thereafter. So just in recognition of that. And then, and I'm gonna say this, I never realized how hard it would be to sit here and listen to the public comments and hear such criticisms from individuals that sat on this board. And I can honestly say that, you know, I made it very public when I ran for office that I went to a school system or a school that was brand new and went all the way down the hall from the front door, out the back door, and into a modular home or a modular classroom. And I said I would never support that again. And I want people to know that I voted and will continue to vote for the students and for the growth of this county. And it breaks my heart every time I go visit a school and I have to go out the back door and go to a modular classroom. Regardless of what the tax rate is, it's disgraceful. Most of them look unsafe to me. And, you know, inaction by previous boards caused costs to go up. And we're suffering for that. And I apologize to the citizens for that. But I'm as conservative as anybody on this board, I'll tell you that. I manage my money tight. And I'm trying to do the same thing with this county. But the only way to improve things is to improve education. And I firmly believe that. That's all.
Commissioner Reeves?
Thank you for your comments.
Yes, sir.
About time somebody called it like to see it.
Yeah, I was thinking about what you just said and one of the comments I heard tonight. How many of us would even have a home we didn't borrow money? You got to borrow money if you're going, you know, if you're going to get through this world, you got to borrow money or be able to borrow money, and you got to be able to pay it back. That's the reason we work. That's the reason I worked all my life.
I just want to comment on our retreat. I want to say to Ms. Brown that shortly, a couple of days later, I forgot I didn't turn in my homework, so don't worry about it.
You have till the end of the month.
Yeah, I'm still working on mine too.
Don't worry about it. Don't stay up late at night. But no, what I wanted to say to you is, it was interesting that I read a couple of days later a very good article in N&O about branding and websites. And what I took away from that is, that's not my job. That's not what I've been elected for. Staff should bring to this board those needs to improve our website and improve the ability for the community to communicate with us. Have a comment section so that we know what we're not doing right, and I'm sure that we probably do. But it's good to have that kind of information, because sometimes you're buying the wrong things, you're going in the wrong direction. And I don't think any of us have time to sit around and look at websites all day. So I think you made a very good point. It certainly stuck in my, I even remember the word brand, so that tells me something. But no, seriously speaking, I think that was a good topic for you to bring to our attention. But I rely on staff to do their part to make it a priority for us to know what you really need. We're not going broke behind it, but you know, don't get too happy. But you know, we would like to know what it is that you need to help make Lee County a better place for everybody. That's all.
I'll echo that same sentiment. You know, I had a preconceived notion of, when we talked about communications position, public information officer, and what I had experienced in the past. And I told Ms. Brown that I really enjoyed that topic. And you know, her expanding upon what it really is and educating the board. So I thank her for that.
Okay. Well, I think dovetailing on that, I will get my homework in. I think it was a good thing for us to kick off our retreat Thursday night on we're in the 21st century, and I look at especially the younger generation, my kids, and you know, it's all social media all the time. That's the way they communicate, and if we want to get our message out and tell our story, we're going to have to do more of that. And thankfully, we have a really good person now to guide us. But we also, I think, you know, primarily, and my understanding is moving forward, our first thing needs to be in doing your homework and communicating with Jamie however you see fit, is that, you know, we do need to formulate a communications policy. You know, things have changed so much, and so we do need to work on that. That's certainly personally one of my goals for us for the next couple of months is to really, you know, buckle down and get that done, because that will help us as commissioners and the citizens know what our rules are, and help our staff. A couple of things. Commissioner Dodson sent his apologies. I think he texted everybody. He's not feeling well tonight. He's dealing with something, so we miss him. We had a really good interlocal meeting last week with the city and the town, and had an awful lot of folks in the room. Had great conversation, a lot of things moving forward, so that was very positive. Commissioner Odom and I were fortunate to get to go to the ribbon cutting out at the Emergency Training Center, and just a beautiful day and a tremendous, very impressive presentation by the firefighters and the EMTs and the BLET cadets. And I felt pretty good when I got out there, but man, they pumped us all up by the time they got through with their presentation out there on the old airstrip. So that
nice facility.
Top notch. And I encourage everybody to ride out there and take a look. Speaking again of trash, we have a state board meeting. State County Commissioners Board meeting coming up Wednesday that I'll be attending. And one of the things, Doc, that I noticed, I've had a couple of meetings out of town, one that's taken me east and one that's taken me west. And it's a good thing, well, not a good thing, but I mean, it's not just a problem for Lee County. You know, I was in Johnston County, I was in Chatham and Wake County, and there's I mean, it just, once you brought it up, it's just kind of, we're so busy and we're going from point A to point B, but, you know, I pay more attention to it now, and it really is not just here, it's everywhere. So I'm gonna take your passion to Raleigh on Wednesday and see if maybe we can and see if maybe we can get some traction. You know, like we talked about, you know, we all remember the 70s and the Native American on the horse with the tear and the trash, and you know, that was a really effective campaign when we're talking about communication. You know, everybody remembers that. So to see if maybe the state board can take that up and maybe get some help at the state level with the governor, you know, maybe creating something and using his office to move that forward. And lastly, I'd just like to remember, I don't know how many in this room know, but Mr. Carl Oots passed away this past week, and he was a dear friend of our families, but he was such an important person in this area. Carl came to Chatham County, I'm not going to say how many years ago, but it's been a while, from the northwest corner of South Carolina. He was a Clemson guy, and he came as a cooperative extension agent for Chatham County, and he was such a mentor to so many farmers and folks trying to grow tomatoes in their garden, and just a stellar individual. And then he felt called to run for county commissioner, and served on their board for many, many years. And when I first got on this board, way back in 2008, Mr. Oots was a mentor of mine. He was just such a super person. I could call him anytime and just say, "What have I done?" You know, and he would give me a lot of good guidance. And he also served many years as a director of Central Electric Co-op here, located in Sanford, but serving the larger area. So he will be greatly missed. His service was on Saturday, but just condolences to his family. He set a high bar for all of us to meet, but just a super guy. Okay, well, with that being said,
Madam Chair,
Mr. Odom.
as per North Carolina General Statute 143-318-11, parentheses A, parentheses 4, and North Carolina General Statute 143-318-11, A parentheses, 5 parentheses, and 6 parentheses, go into closed session to discuss the location of expansion of business and a personnel matter.
Okay, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, we're in closed session. Thank y'all very much for attending. Okay, and is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All right, all those in favor say aye. All right, y'all have a good, safe rest of the week. Don't forget your,
I didn't have nothing to do with that.